Hi, I'm Russ Mitchell sitting in for Katie Couric. Here's what we're working on tonight's CBS Evening News. President Bush talking Iraq strategy today. His national security advisors are down in Crawford, Texas, talking to him today about that. The president, of course, is set to outline his new Iraq war strategy in the next few weeks. David Martin's going to have the latest on that. Also, David's going to have a tidbit today from the Washington Post, but it's something that we didn't know before today. Going to walk over to senior producer Bill Owens, who's going to tell us more about that. Bill Owens, one of the reasons that these are such highly rated web hits. Was that right, Bill?
I thought that we found out that your solo appearance 2 days ago was higher rated than our joint appearance yesterday.
I think it's just a fluke. But David's going to have something else tonight from the Washington Post, something from Bob Woodward that's quite fascinating.
Yeah, it's along the lines of what our own former colleague Phil Jones did, an interview with the president only to be published or broadcast upon his death. In an interview with Bob Woodward, Gerald Ford told him that he thought the Iraq War was a bad idea, that it was a bad calculation to go in, and that he disagreed with the reasoning for prosecuting the war. And that's caused a bit of a splash. Obviously, Dick Cheney and Donald Rumsfeld both worked for Gerald Ford earlier in their careers. So interesting, and David will talk about that in his piece this evening.
That's going to be really interesting. And as you said, I mean, these folks that he's talking about, that President Ford was talking about, are people who are now working for the Bush administration.
That's right. I think back earlier in their careers, perhaps they would have been considered politically a little bit more moderate, maybe. But anyway, that's another story.
Another story. Well, also, Kelly Kobiea is in Denver. I mean, 2 weeks ago, was it last week?
Yeah.
Denver got 2 feet of snow. The last thing they need is another snowstorm. Today, they're expecting 18 inches. Kelly's going to tell us all about that. Also, another fascinating story, this cloned animal story. Cloned meats are okay now, right?
The FDA just told us that cloned meat and dairy products, among other things, are safe to eat, and so don't be afraid of buying some cloned T-bone steaks next time you're in your grocery, even though you can't actually get them. But
I don't think it says that on the label necessarily.
Right.
Yeah, it's quite spooky. Also, I'm making the grade tonight. Going to finish up our series on education. This is fascinating. We're going to hear from Lee Cowan about a school district that is getting better results from high schoolers by eliminating high school.
That's right.
How insane is that?
They're trying to play to young people's interests and talents, and figuring out what acumens certain students have, and trying to give them sort of a trade, if that's what they're interested in, and prepare them with those skills earlier on, so they can hit the workforce and be gainfully employed and do what they want to do with their life, and prepare them for that earlier. So it sounds it's an interesting way to look at education and our young people.
Where were we when they were talking about all this stuff?
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Send your cards and letters to Bill Owens, senior producer at the CBS Evening News. We're going to have those stories and more tonight on the CBS Evening News. We'll see you then.